Now we're cooking here, boys. Could the Sentry solo the Justice League? Yes. Yes. Now this is a character who is most definitely built for the job of taking down the Justice League for sure.
Aren't you tired of fighting? Let me help you.
Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit that sub button if you haven't already. What do we think? Because Sentry solo the Justice League. This is an easy win for him. Only thing is, it depends on where they're fighting, okay? If they're fighting in the Marvel universe, Sentry is winning easily. If they're fighting in the DC universe, it might get a little rough because if Superman, for some reason, decides that he wants to collide with Ultraman or something like that and become the thought robot, that that's a different story. But I don't know. I don't think it would get that deep, right? I probably wouldn't. With Sentry, like, he can manipulate reality too, so he's definitely on another power level, especially when it comes to the Justice League for sure. Yeah. Let's check this out though.
Gold Suit is standing in an open field, not moving, while 7 of the most powerful beings on the planet fan out in front of him. He isn't angry, he isn't scared. His hands are shaking just slightly, and it's not from fear of them. Keep that detail in your head. We're coming back to it. This is Robert Reynolds, the Sentry, the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns sitting in one nervous-looking guy who'd rather not be doing this. Here's the thing, though. This really isn't a question of whether he beats the Justice League. It's a question of what it costs him to get through all 7. So, here's how we're running it. Every stage, I'm rating Sentry on the tier of survival scale. S means he cruises through without breaking a sweat. F means he's dead. This is Mike, your host here on Nerd Science. If you love breaking down pop culture with real science, hit the like button, subscribe, and get ready. And the whole video's asking one question. How close does anyone on this roster push him toward that F? Let's find out. The first contact: Aquaman, Cyborg, Green Lantern. The League doesn't charge. That's the first thing to understand. This is a coordinated response. They've planned for godlike threats before, and the front line exists to absorb, redirect, and buy time for the people behind it. Arthur moves first, because that's who Arthur is. He brings the ocean with him. Hydrokinesis at a scale that has flattened warships, a wall of water carrying enough mass to level a city block, bearing down on one man. Sentry doesn't dodge it. He walks through it. Not because water can't hurt him, but because he's rewriting it mid-stride. Right. Here's where I need you to slow down with me, because this is the move underneath every fight in this video. Water is just hydrogen and oxygen holding hands. And Sentry, ever since he tangled with the Molecule Man and discovered he could edit matter itself, can talk those atoms out of holding hands. So he does. What? The hydrogen and oxygen are still there. They just stop agreeing on what they are. Arthur's wave goes inert before it lands. The ocean, for 1 second, stops listening to him. Tier rating for Sentry? S. He doesn't even slow down. Cyborg's approach is smarter. Victor knows he can't outmuscle this, so he doesn't try. He scans instead, mapping the power signature, hunting for a frequency to exploit. His systems are running a real-time breakdown of everything Sentry's done in the last 30 seconds. But Sentry doesn't bother hacking the tech. He finds the seam, the exact spot where Victor's organic tissue meets the metal chassis, and restructures the proteins holding that junction together. The link collapses from the inside. Victor goes down without Sentry raising his voice. Tier S. Green Lantern is the first real complication. Hal builds at scale. Hard-like constructs designed to cage things the size of stars, held up by raw willpower. And here's the clever part. Sentry doesn't break them. He can't be bothered to. Instead, his psychic presence reaches past the constructs entirely and goes after Hal's ability to hold the image. Concentration cracks under that kind of weight. The architecture blurs. And by the time Hal tries to rebuild it, Sentry's already walked through the gap. Tier
Imagine being able to build an app
Yeah,
with your
Sentry's
name
just
on
gonna
it,
walk through
just by thinking
all
about
these
it.
guys,
Meet
dude.
Base 44.
A. Not effortless, but close. So, 3 of the league's most versatile members are down in under 2 minutes. And notice why. Sentry isn't outgunning them. He's fighting on a different floor of the building. They work at the level of force and impact. He works 1 level down, where everything's still chemistry, still editable. The front line was always just buying time. The question is what that time was for. The Race and the Warrior. Flash, Wonder Woman. Barry's been hanging back this whole time, and that's not cowardice, that's how Barry works. He processes faster than anyone in a room and waits for the window nobody else can see. And he sees one. Everything Sentry's done so far needed contact with matter. He had to touch the water, touch Victor, touch Hal's focus. So Barry's plan is simple. Become something that can't be touched. The vibration trick is one of the deadliest tools he owns. Match the molecular frequency of a target, phase straight through them, and scramble their structure on the way
That's
out.
not gonna do
It's worked
anything.
on things that had no business being phased through. Against Sentry, it should work too, because Sentry's body is made of the same editable matter, which means it has a frequency Barry can match. Except Sentry's control runs both directions. The instant Barry pushes his vibration into Sentry's atoms, Sentry stabilizes them in real time. A counter frequency that rises to meet Barry's exactly turns the phase into a wall, not a construct. Just matter that's decided it isn't moving. Barry hits it at a good fraction of light speed, and the speed force doesn't save him, because the speed force makes his body fast. It doesn't stop his cells from being rewritten faster than his nervous system can file the complaint. Tier A. Right idea. The execution just ran into something that thinks faster than the plan. His second try is desperate. Enough kinetic energy looped back on itself bends time. Not time travel, more like a bubble where cause and effect lose track of each other for a few seconds. Seal that around Sentry, and the power inside it stops mattering. But peak Sentry's reaction time scales with his output, and he catches Barry mid-loop before the bubble closes. Tier A again. 2 genuinely smart approaches, neither one gets all the way there. And honestly, that gap, the distance between A and an actual upset, was starting to look unbridgeable. Then, Diana steps in, and the whole video changes shape. She doesn't come with a plan. She comes with centuries of combat instinct, divine durability, and a will that doesn't recognize the phrase losing situation. She knows the power gap. She fights anyway. And for the first time in this entire sequence, Sentry has to actually work. Not because she outmuscles him, but because her body doesn't rewrite cleanly. Diana's physiology is divine, older than biology, and it resists his molecular touch the way ancient stone resists a ballpoint pen. She forces him back. She makes him think about what he's doing instead of just doing it. This fight runs longer than every previous one combined. She lands hits that register. She burns through his attention, which isn't nothing. His focus is a resource. She spends more of it than anyone before her, but a million exploding suns isn't a metaphor. The ceiling she can push on and not move. She slows him down. She doesn't stop him. Tier C. And right at the end, watch this. Sentry pauses, not from damage, from something inside. A flicker of the void at the edge of his composure. Half a second where Robert Reynolds remembers what he could become. Nobody in the league is close enough to use it, but it happened, and one person was watching for exactly that. The detective and the last god. Batman, Superman.
This is what we want to say.
I know what this is starting to feel like. 6 down, the powerhouse runs the table. You've seen this video. Stay with me, because this is the part nobody expects. Bruce hadn't thrown a single punch. He's been at the back since the opening bell, and while everyone else spent themselves against a man who rewrites matter, Bruce was doing the only thing that's ever actually worked for him: cataloging every hesitation, every half second where Robert Reynolds looked like a person instead of a phenomenon. And he caught the one that mattered. That flicker after Diana, the void surfacing just long enough to be seen by someone who knew what he was looking at. His play was never going to be physical. Bruce knows the history. The fractured mind, the manufactured amnesia, the serum Reynolds took and then couldn't remember taking. A whole life built around not knowing who he is. So Bruce doesn't threaten him. He just talks quietly, specifically, with the precision of a man who studies people the way other people study blueprints. He knows the fear. He traces it to the root. He reminds Robert that the void was there the whole time. There when the people who trusted him, and that a light this big throws a shadow exactly its own size. For about 40 seconds, it works. Sentry goes still. The void stirs. Bruce gets further than anyone in this entire video. Not by hitting harder, not by moving faster, but by finding the one variable that was never about power. Tier C. And it's the closest this whole thing comes to an F. Not because Bruce nearly kills him, because for 40 seconds, Robert Reynolds isn't sure he's the one driving. Then it closes. And here's the cruel part for Bruce. Peak Sentry isn't the version of Robert who collapses under that weight. He's the version who's already sat with it, already felt what the void wants, and chosen not to hand it the wheel. The strategy was perfect. The wound it was built around had already scarred over. Bruce goes down the way brilliant people go down when every option's spent. Quietly. No drama. Having gotten about 1,000 miles further than he had any right to. And then there's Clark. Two beings at the outer edge of physical existence, except they're standing at different edges. Clark's power is accumulation. Decades of yellow sun radiation banked in Kryptonian cells, released as force on the scale of earthquakes.
Now I'm thinking here, Sentry could probably just rewrite him. Maybe how Nerd Science just explained Sentry's powers, it's making me think like, again, they're fighting on two different playing fields. Like Sentry's rewriting the codes and Superman's using, impact force or whatever. So we already know he beats the whole Justice League. It's just maybe Superman could be a proper anchor,
And carries that whole history in it. Sentry's power is structural. He doesn't add force to matter, he changes what the matter is. Different categories of damage. And the difference matters because one of them heals. Clark heals. That's what keeps him standing longer than anyone. Kryptonian repair under a yellow sun closes wounds mid-exchange, fast enough to keep eating punishment that would end most things on Earth.
But they're not under a yellow sun.
And it's the same problem as everyone else's. Healing is downstream of chemistry, and it needs proteins folding the right way, bonds holding, molecular instructions firing in order. Sentry works above that. He rewrites the instructions before the repair processes gets to read them. So the fight has a direction even when Clark refuses to admit it. It runs long. It runs brutal. Clark forces more output out of Sentry than the entire rest of the roster combined. And there's a real version of this where the sheer duration becomes the threat, where the strain starts pulling Sentry's psychology in the exact direction Bruce was pushing. It doesn't get there, but the gap between a clean win and something worse gets crossed right here. And Superman is the only reason it gets crossed at all. Tier B+. Yeah. He didn't flip it, he made Sentry prove it. Chapter 4, The Verdict. Could he actually solo them? 7 members, 1 Sentry, no prep, no plan, no chance to study their abilities before the bell. He went through them one at a time, which means every fight cost him something. Attention, output, the energy of staying himself through all of it, and he was still standing when Clark finally dropped. So, yes, Peak Sentry solos the Justice League. That's the answer. But the margin is thinner than his power level suggests, and the path matters more than the destination. Look at where the friction actually came from. The front line, Arthur, Victor, Hal, never got close because they were fighting on the wrong floor. Barry got closer by attacking the method instead of the man twice, smartly, and still came up short. Then Diana introduced a thing none of them could, a cost. He spent focus. He paused. And that pause is the whole game because that pause is what handed Bruce his window. The most dangerous 40 seconds in the video, not because it nearly killed Sentry, because it nearly handed control to something that doesn't fight on a survival scale at all. The Void doesn't do tears, it does erasure. So the board reads
Erasure.
Aquaman S, Cyborg S, Green Lantern A, Flash A, Wonder Woman C, Batman C, Superman B+. And that gradient is the actual story. The closer a member got to understanding how Sentry truly works, not his ceiling, but his structure, his psychology, the machinery under the output, the closer they got to making this real. Arthur fought the power. Bruce fought the man. One of those gets you to S tier on his board. The other gets you to the edge of F. Here's the question we're sitting with. Bruce's window only opened because Diana forced Sentry to strain. But what if the timing had been different? What if that psychological crack had opened not after Diana, but during Clark? When Sentry was already running his highest output of the night and Superman still wouldn't go down. The Void doesn't stay contained by willpower alone when there's no willpower left to spend. The version of this fight where Bruce times that conversation for that moment is a completely different video. Sentry might still win, but it's not this clean. It's not this certain. And the thing standing in the field afterward might not technically be Sentry anymore. That's the version that keeps the answer honest. He wins. He wins clearly. But the win has a load-bearing wall. And there's a crack in that wall, and exactly one person in this fight was ever looking at it. Robert Reynolds stands alone in the wreckage, every member of the Justice League down around him, and his hands are still shaking. Same shake from the very first shot. Now you know why. It was never about them. It's the effort of staying himself through all of it, with the Void always one bad moment from the wheel. If you think Superman could push Sentry past that line one-on-one, drop your tier of survival rating in the comments, and subscribe for more matchups like this one.
Oh my God, what the yeah. Why didn't we see that?
You can unlock
the
experiences
hell?
like no other. Find out your welcome.
Yeah, I want
offer.
to see Sentry turn into the Void, dude. But let me know what you guys thought about that down in the comments below. I love how he went more in depth of the whole like fight with Sentry and how it's not just, you know, blow for blow type. It's obviously way more than that. And with Sentry's like psychology and stuff like that, it definitely makes for an interesting fight. Low key, the Justice League could probably push him. They probably could get him to that point, having the Void take control of him or whatever. But for the most part, he's way too broken, dude. He's way too broken. I didn't know that when he met up with Molecule Man, that's how he learned he could rewrite matter and stuff like that or whatever, which would make sense because Molecule Man does all that too, right? Like, those characters are so like fucking cool, bro, because they're so busted. They're fighting on a whole different level, you know what I mean? Like, it's not blow for blow anymore. It's not punch for punch. It's not blast for blast anymore. It's something to something. Something to something. I don't know. You guys let me know down in the comments below. What is it? What is it? What is it? Like, what type of fight is that? Molecule Man versus Sentry. That's an atom fight or something? I don't know. Hit that like button, hit that sub button if you haven't already. Yeah, that'll do for today, boys. But I still need to see Thunderbolts too, so I haven't. Should I watch it? Like, I might watch it today. I don't know. You guys, y'all gotta let me know if that joint's worth the watch. I heard it's worth the watch, but I'm still waiting on it.